Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Absolutely Podcast, the podcast specifically designed to help women defeat diet culture and live their dream healthy lifestyle. Today's episode, I'm going to be giving 10 tips to balance your hormones because the amount of times I've heard women in the DMs or on calls and they say, well, I can't lose weight because my hormones are just broken. Let me tell you, your hormones are not broken. They are an outcome from the habits that maybe you have been doing for years. Of course, there are the special circumstances where maybe something is autoimmune that could be affecting things, or other life events like menopause could cause it, or coming off of birth control. But for the most part, if your hormones, or you feel like your hormones are something that is leading you to not see progress, it is largely due to your lifestyle and your habits that you have been doing. And so I'm going to be talking about 10 tips to balance those hormones. And I promise you, if you do have more hormonal issues and you're not doing these 10 things, this could be definitely putting a fork in the road with your progress. And so really excited to go over that today because there's just so many misconceptions when it comes to hormones and just feeling like you are broken or like you're never going to see progress because of your hormones, when that does absolutely not have to be the case. So excited to go over that in today's episode. Before that, I'm going to talk about my high of the week, my low of the week, do a little week recap, also my favorite of the week. So if you want to skip forward to the episode, skip forward like 5 to 10 minutes. But I love going over my highs and lows of the week, and I love listening to it on other podcasts. So here we go. My high of the week, I literally just had to look at my notes because I couldn't remember what I wrote down for my high of the week. It wasn't like a bad week. It just wasn't a week of like great highs, great lows, which is good. Like we love just an in-between normal, uneventful week. So my high of the week was I got my passport. And I cannot remember if I talked about this on my podcast, but there was like this whole saga I had on Instagram about me renewing my passport because basically my passport was supposed to expire this month, and I traveled to Mexico last month. So of course, like I needed to make sure that 6 months, ahead of it expiring, I needed to get my passport. So it didn't expire till July or whatever, but I decided to get it done in January. So my sister and I took these photos. We took them against my beautiful white walls I have in my house, and she took a photo. It was kind of, I didn't really necessarily want to take my photo that day because I was feeling a little bit greasy. My hair was in fact slicked back, which is a very brave decision to have on a passport that you're going to have for 10 years. And I just committed to the bit. I was like, you know what? You have the camera. We might as well just do these photos today. So I stood against the wall. She took my photo with the digital. It was great. Hair slicked back. I posted it on my Instagram. Everyone was like laughing at it because really, like, it is a brave choice to do a slick back to a passport photo that's going to be there for 10 years. Not that I feel like I'm ugly in a slick back. I do feel like I look cute in a slick back, but you do kind of borderline bald in the passport picture. So I did that, very brave of me, and I go to submit my passport photo online, which, by the way, online, it was so easy. I remember, 10 years ago, a lot has changed. A lot of the technology and biometric system has changed when it comes to passports. But when I got it last time, I remember it being just such a terrible experience. I mean, any government building entity is a terrible experience. And if you don't have a good experience, I don't know. It's just a universal situation here. So I decided I was going to just do it online. So do it online. I go to submit it though, and it keeps denying my photo. It is definitely discrimination against my slick back because it wouldn't let me submit my slick back photo, which was so rude. And so I kept trying to do it. I even tried to like manipulate the like brightness of it, which I guess you can't do. You can't manipulate the photo at all. Then of course I was like nervous about just evading the law and breaking the law because I was brightening my photo in Canva. It was just a whole thing. And I just decided, you know what? I'm retaking the photo. Even after posting this on Instagram and on TikTok about my slick back passport photo, I decided to retake it because it kept denying it. Something about the US government's passport website portal did not like my slick back. And so I decided to retake the photo. I submit it, and it says it's going to get here in 6 to 8 weeks. And so, of course, like that's fine. I have no travel coming up. We'll be good. But to my surprise, it came literally like a week and a half after I submitted it. So I already have my new passport. That's my high of the week. I don't know why it's a high because it's not like I have like travel planned. It's just nice to know that like you have your passport on you. Like you can leave at a moment's notice if you need to. I like to be able to just be fluid with that. Like, not that I'm a very spontaneous person. I'm not a spontaneous person, but it's just nice to know that you have it in your hands. So that was my high of the week. It was so crazy though that it literally said 6 to 8 weeks and it just randomly popped up. That's like the only time I've had like a government entity like that like really serve me for the better. So I was really happy about that. And that was my high of the week. I know, just kind of like a random high. And then my low of the week, which is my thorn of the week, rose and thorn, was there's this golf tournament here. I mean, it's not a small thing. I'm talking about it like it's a small golf tournament or something. It's a big tournament. It's called Waste Management Open. And if you are any sort of familiar with golf, or maybe you have a husband or a boyfriend, it's probably come across their desks a couple of times. And so it's a big tournament here, and it's basically known for going to the tournament, getting super drunk, drinking a lot, partying. Um, and, as a local here, I have definitely taken the stance that, like, I don't like this week here anymore. I've been to it. It is fun. I will say it is fun. It's fun if you get good tickets and you are in an area that is red rope. However, GA, just walking around, it's not for me. The GA life is not for me. And so I decided this year, like, if a red rope ticket comes my way, I sound really bratty saying this out loud, but if it comes my way, like, I'll go. But if I, don't have a place to sit, if I am just standing in the sun, I'm good. Like, I don't want to go. Spoiler alert, red rope tickets did not come my way. I wish that I could come on this podcast and give this like crazy recap. No, I'm instead just coming on to complain about being a local here in Phoenix with Waste Management. But for some just like backstory, I used to live literally a walk away from the tournament, and I literally couldn't leave my house that week. I would actually go like live at my parents' for the weekend or whatever, just because they block off all the roads. It's just a complete disaster. And especially where I live now 5 minutes away from the golf course. So it's not like I live super far away. Like, I live pretty close to it still. And so it's just a disaster. Like, you don't want to leave the house. There's a ton of drunk drivers. Even like in the neighborhood I live in, there were people that definitely like rented their house out because you probably can make a lot of money. Maybe I should do that next year, like make a whole lot of money on that. But just people stumbling around. It's just so funny. Like, people, I feel like I got a taste of it without even going, but it's just a disaster to leave the house at all times. My gym is literally like a 2-minute drive. I had to have a parking pass on my car for the event just because people are insane. But no one was at the gym because no one wanted / could get to the gym. So it was just perfect, like, for me and my situation. But to put it into perspective, like how close I am to this event. So basically they have the golf tournament all day, and then they have artists or like performers at night. There actually were a lot of good performances. I'm kind of bummed that I did miss on John Summit, but this is actually so funny. So Saturday night, I was tired. I decided I was going to take a bath. So I go into my bathroom. I draw myself a nice bath. I put my magnesium salt flakes in. I put my nice expensive bath oil. I'm like setting the mood, setting the tone. I get in my bath. Literally the moment I get in the bath, John Summit starts playing his set down the road. I can hear everything in the bath. It was like literally, I don't want to be dramatic. Like, it wasn't vibrating in my bath, but it was definitely like, it was John Summit was present, which is so funny. But that was my like thorn of the week / just like not really a thorn. It was fine. It happens every year. It's just like the cost of living here in Phoenix. You just have to deal with it. But it was also like 80 degrees this past week. Amazing weather. I got to go out and play a golf course. Super great week, but it's just always such a disaster getting anywhere during Waste Management Week, and trying to relax is just, a little bit more tricky during this week. Even like I was letting out my dog at night and I could hear drunk men yelling. I'm like, why are drunk men yelling at 7 p.m. on a Friday night? It's, it's just the time of the year, which, good for you. It's honestly super fun. If you never have gone, definitely recommend it. Like, it's really cool. It's cool to go to, but kind of one of those like one and done / like one and then like red rope the rest of the time. Favorite product has been my red light mask. Going along with the whole self-care theme, my night routine lately has been taking a nice hot warm shower. Before that, I do my lymphatic drainage through dry brushing. So I do dry brushing and then I take my shower, I do my skincare, I do my castor oil pack, and then I will go into my bed and I will put my red light mask on. Sometimes I'll read before that. I don't like to read with my red light mask on. I'm like freaked out to like have my eyes open with it on. I don't know. I don't like it. It just like makes me feel like I can't see, slash like I feel like it's going to blind me or like be not good for my eyes long term. So I do that. And I really do feel like it has improved my skin. And I know I've talked about being on my post birth control journey, but I'm just like wanting to do a lot of things to be proactive and preventative towards any sort of skin issues that come with post birth control symptoms. So I've been doing that every single night. And I swear, like, it just makes you so glowy and feel so good. But also, I love doing it right before bed because I swear it just like puts me into this like relaxed state. Like, I always fall asleep really quickly when I do the red light mask. So I've been loving that just as like a little wellness tool situation to kind of put me to sleep and to set the tone for the night. Okay, so now let's talk about 10 tips to balance your hormones. So all of these tips that I'm going to go over today are going to be foundational. They're not going to be trendy. And what it boils down to for most women when it comes to why they have messed up hormones, it's because you are being too restrictive, you're too stressed, and you're not consistent enough. Those three things are a recipe for disaster when it comes to your hormonal health. So if we can address those three things, which each of the topics I'm talking about today do somehow weave into those three things that I just mentioned. So, number one, you have got to make sure that you are eating enough food. Way too many women have been living in a state of being in a constant calorie deficit. And when you're in a constant calorie deficit, your hormones are not going to be happy because pretty much when you're eating less than you are burning, you are, of course, like should be losing body fat in theory. But a lot of people do not lose body fat because their body is just put into this constant state of stress and your metabolism has now adapted. With your metabolism adapting, your hormones have also adapted. And so a lot of women will start to experience things like thyroid dysfunction, sex hormone dysfunction, which makes it really hard for you, of course, to lose weight. But you also will start to experience symptoms like low energy, low libido, potential skin issues, gut issues, constipation, a lot of different things that are not fun to deal with. And so when you're not eating enough food, you start to kind of have these things that you start to experience hormonal wise, which of course is not fun to have as a symptom of undereating, but it's also something very frustrating because you're like, okay, well, I'm eating in a calorie deficit. I'm now not losing body fat. I now feel more inflamed. I'm starting to experience these hormonal dysfunction and issues that you never had before. And it literally can be caused from not eating enough. So here are some signals/signs that you are not eating enough food. Number one, you are missing your period. Of course, periods are the, number one hormonal sign that something is wrong with your body. Like if you are not getting a consistent period and slash missing periods or having different symptoms when it comes to period, like very heavy bleeding or cramping, like those things are not normal. And it is a symptom of something hormonally that you are experiencing and something that you do need to balance. So missed periods is like number one. If you're missing your period, you definitely need to probably be eating more food, especially if you know that you're under eating. Cold hands or feet, this can be a symptom of your thyroid hormone being all out of whack. Low libido, so low sex drive, that is something, of course, that will happen as well with not eating enough. Plateau despite doing everything right that I just talked about. So even though you are eating in a deficit and you're not eating more than you are burning, you are still struggling to lose body fat. And you're like, why? Your hormones need fuel. They need safety, especially when it comes to eating enough carbs, especially when it comes to eating enough healthy fats. And when your body does not have those two things, it is not going to be able to produce these hormones properly. And so it's going to make it really, really hard to feel the way you want, to look the way you want. And so I would definitely recommend going to my episode where I talk about reverse dieting if you're someone that's like, well, I don't really know if I'm eating enough food. That is a great episode to actually be able to assess and have a step-by-step process on how to know whether you are eating enough food and what actually to do if you're not eating enough food to not also put on body fat. Because I know a lot of women have just maybe been eating a certain way for a long period of time and they're like, well, how do I eat more food without putting on a bunch of weight? There is an exact science called the reverse diet on how to do that, but you have to do it in order for your body to be able to properly function in this harmony when it comes to your hormones. The next tip is to stop demonizing carbs. I know I just kind of talked about this with the reverse diet, but we have been taught as women that carbs are evil, carbs are the enemy, and it is just so much misinformation when it comes to your nutrition and how it relates to your hormonal health. Your body actually needs carbohydrates, especially as women, in order to function. And so by cutting out all carbs, you are really severely causing a lot of hormonal dysregulation that you don't necessarily think is happening from cutting out carbs. So carbs will support your thyroid, they'll help with ovulation, they will be a good cortisol buffer. And so if you're not having carbs, you probably are going to experience a lot of issues in those areas. And I'm not saying like low carb is bad always. Like there are specific circumstances that could be beneficial to having lower carbs, but that doesn't mean you have no carbs. Carbs are going to be really important, especially long term. Like short term, if maybe you have a couple of low carb days on accident, it's not going to like cause all these downwind hormonal issues. But if you do have long-term low carb situations or go on a long-term low carb diet, you probably will start to experience some hormonal dysregulation because it causes a lot of stress in your body. Carbs are your body's preferred source of energy. And so when we're not giving your body carbs, it is going to feel stressed and it's going to lead to some of these things like more inflammation, more symptoms than you're wanting to deal with. And so we want to also though not just be like, okay, yay, carbs, I'm going to eat a ton of donuts or I'm going to, have pizza every single day, but we want to have whole nutrient dense foods as sources for carbs. Sweet potatoes, oats, whole grains, fruits, vegetables, like those are going to be things that are really great and beneficial to your system in order to make sure we're balancing your hormones. And also kind of little side note slash bonus is timing these around your workouts as well, like pre and post workout, having carbohydrates and being able to really properly utilize those carbs is really important for your overall health and also your physique. So when you're having these post and pre-workout carbs, your body is going to be able to shuttle and use those a lot more efficiently than maybe outside of the window. Not to say you shouldn't have carbs outside of the window. You can totally have carbs on a rest day. You can totally have carbs not in that window of your workout, but your body's going to use those carbs really efficiently. So having most of your carbs in that area is really going to help with your results. So carbs are not the enemy. Carbs are something you really, really need. And fats are also something you need too. You need to prioritize your carbs and your fats. Fats are very important for your hormones. I know from personal experience, like I used to definitely eat very low fat because I was scared of fats. And that was something that really did damage my hormonal health and something that had a lot of long-term repercussions for me. So having healthy fats like avocado, olive oil, fatty meats like steak and salmon and that stuff is going to be something really beneficial for you too. And so carbs don't make you fat, fat doesn't make you fat, but an excess of those do too. So I think that the importance of having a proper macro split and really knowing about like what your specific body activity level, height, weight, everything, what it requires to properly fuel yourself and of course like calories wise too, I think is so important. So I definitely recommend knowing what your body needs in order to be able to support your hormones and be able to fuel your body for these hormones to work properly. The next number 3 is going to be prioritizing protein, but not being like so crazy obsessive over protein too. I think that goes back to having the right macro split for your body. If you're someone that is eating no protein right now, and then you maybe go online and you have a macro split assigned to you that's like, you need to eat 150 grams of protein, like that's going to feel crazy. That's going to feel like a lot. So I definitely recommend easing into eating protein, but I do think that protein is so important. So I think a really great place to start for you is going to be to just have a serving of protein at every meal and at every snack. I think that that is a great bare minimum for anyone to practice. The reason why hormones and protein are very important, of course, like protein's important for building muscle and a lot of other things, but it's very important with balancing your blood sugar. Balancing your blood sugar is really important with your overall hormonal health, and just that blood sugar stability really is helpful for your stress hormones in particular. So if you are kind of balancing your blood sugar, you're going to probably experience a lot less of these hormonal symptoms, and you're going to feel a lot better throughout the day too. I'm not sure if you've ever had any sort of like blood sugar crash or whatever, like that's really stressful on your body. And even if you don't necessarily experience that very often, or if you're not a person that has those blood sugar crashes, it still is very important to make sure you're balancing your blood sugar. And especially if you are someone maybe with like PCOS, it is so vital to make sure you're getting all the macronutrients in, as well as prioritizing protein. And also, if you have more muscle on you by eating more protein, of course, doing your strength training, your insulin sensitivity is going to be better. And so your body's going to be able to process carbs a lot more efficiently. And it's going to be able to like lose body fat more efficiently too, which is great. So I think a great practical target is going to be to have protein at every single meal. You don't need to be crazy. You don't need to be slamming protein shakes every single day. But if you get up, you have a couple eggs, a little bit of egg whites, maybe a yogurt bowl, that's a great place to start. Having some protein at lunch, having protein at these things, because when you're not having protein, your body, basically blood sugar is going up and down. It's kind of going through this crazy wave. If you've ever worn a glucose monitor, so I did this, that was actually very interesting, a little interesting test for me. But if you've ever worn one and you've had a meal that you don't have I like to say like a well-dressed meal. So protein, carb, fat, and fiber. If you have a meal that maybe is just carbs, you can see that your insulin spikes very, very rapidly and really high. Whereas if you have the same amount of carbs, but you dress it with a protein, a fat, and a fiber, it stays a lot more consistent and a lot more stable. And so definitely recommend that. And it's just like such a simple thing, like having protein, having balanced meals, making sure you're eating enough. All of those things are very detrimental to your progress. So number 4 is actually blood sugar stability. I know I kind of talked about it with protein, so we'll kind of go over this quickly. But when your blood sugar spikes, it'll then crash, and then your cortisol will increase, and then your hormones will be in just like this chaotic zone. So you want to make sure that you are balancing your blood sugar by pairing meals with things, making sure that you're not just having snacks all day, every single day. That is something that a lot of women I talk to do, or like are eating kind of like birds, like having these low calorie meals throughout the day, which of course are not going to be the most beneficial thing for your blood sugar. And so another thing you can do is walk after meals. That is a really great way to balance your blood sugar, is going to be to go for a quick 10 to 15-minute walk after your meals. A lot of my clients, I'll tell them, especially if like they maybe work from home or have a little bit more flexibility, to go on a 10-minute walk or to hop on their walking pad right after meals, because what happens is that it does help with balancing that blood sugar, and you'll probably find yourself having less cravings throughout the day. And your digestion will probably improve too. I know I've seen it on TikTok. People call it like digestion walks, like going on a digestion walk post dinner or whatever. But think about if you go on 3 10-minute walks throughout the day after each meal, you're going to not only get a lot of steps in, but you're also going to be really doing yourself a favor with your blood sugar balancing and your digestion. Number 5 is going to be to lift weights strategically, is the key word. So resistance training is going to be very important for improving insulin sensitivity because you have more muscle on you. It's also going to be really good for your other sex hormone balances. When you have more muscle on you, it's very, very, very important for all of your other hormones. So we want to make sure that we are prioritizing strength training over doing something like a HIIT training session or a boot camp. Those are going to be very high stress on your body, and they can definitely backfire, which will cause more inflammation and just overall not feeling like you are getting the results from your workout that you think that you should be getting. And I know how frustrating it can be to be doing these workouts and then not seeing results and wondering why. And a lot of times it's because we're doing workouts that are wrong for your hormones. The number one thing that women come to me that I see that they're doing wrong when it comes to workouts is they are going way too hard. You do not need to be working out every single day. You don't need to be doing these crazy runs. You don't need to be doing these crazy Orange Theory classes or boot camps or these crazy HIIT workouts. Like, honestly, that could be doing more harm than good, especially if you know that your hormones are something that you're currently struggling or suffering with. And so I definitely recommend actually going a little bit lighter on your body and maybe doing like 3 to 4 strength training sessions a week, getting some steps in, taking more of a light approach, especially when it comes to balancing your hormones. I think that that's kind of a sweet spot rather than saying like, I need to go so hard doing all these classes. Again, too much of anything can cause diminishing returns. And especially when it comes to these classes that you are busting your butt in, you're sweating, you're literally walking out and can't walk. Like, you're not even probably seeing the results that you want to from those because you're number one, you're stressing out your body, you're stressing out your hormones, you're causing this hormonal damage, which makes it harder to lose weight, makes it harder for you to not be struggling with inflammation. But it also is causing you distress just in your body and just not being able to see the results that you want to see. I definitely recommend strength training a few times per week. Not only will you look better because you're actually building muscle tone and you're not just like doing these high intensity workouts and burning a ton of calories and putting your body under a ton of stress, but it will just make you overall feel a ton better. Okay, so number 6 is not a sexy one, but it's a very important one, and it is sleep. Sleep should be something that is 100% non-negotiable. If you are not getting enough sleep in, you cannot expect your hormones to be balanced. And I know, especially for someone that maybe is a new mom or you're not able to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night, like this can definitely cause a little bit of a pit in your stomach. Like, well, I can't do that right now. And what we can do though is try to set yourself up for success by setting a bedtime alarm, just like you do in the morning, setting one at night, getting to bed on time. I think that's a really important thing. But I mean, when you get poor sleep, that will lead to your cortisol levels being out of balance, which will, of course, make your blood sugar be all over the place, disrupt also your hunger hormones. So you have 2 hunger hormones, leptin and ghrelin. And when you're not getting enough sleep, you might find yourself being a little bit hungrier or not being able to get as full. And so you will definitely experience those negative side effects when it comes to not getting enough sleep. So I know a lot of people have kind of glamorized that like sleep is for the weak or sleep when you're dead. But honestly, sleeping is really the key for success. I find when I don't get my 7 to 9 hours of sleep, I am more inflamed. I'm hungrier. I'm, of course, like more irritable, but I don't recover as well from my workouts. And I've even had clients that come to me and the only thing that we fix is sleep. The only thing that we address maybe in the first week or two is sleep, and they immediately drop weight on the scale because their body is just in this stressed out state. And your body needs rest in order to build the body that you want. And so stop glamorizing super early mornings, late nights. I mean, I would rather a client get a good night of sleep than wake up 4 hours earlier to do this 10-step routine. Like, I would way rather a client get sleep and prioritize that over workouts sometimes. Like, I had a client that we had a really tough conversation with because she loves running. She's a big runner, but she was sacrificing her sleep to get up for these early runs. And I said, okay, how about if we maybe give yourself another 30 minutes to an hour of sleep a couple times a week and see how you feel? And hey, it did wonders. And so I think that that is also something to really recognize that we can think in our mind like, hey, that workout's going to be really important or whatever. And of course it's important. Like, of course it's something that we value and we want to do. And I'm really proud of you for getting a workout in. However, it's something that can definitely have negative side effects when it comes to your health and fitness. And so I really think that doing a few things like having consistent bedtime routines, setting that bedtime alarm is really important. Also, having morning sunshine when you do get out of bed, that is something for setting that circadian rhythm so that way you can fall asleep at night. Cutting off caffeine earlier in the day, that's also very important. Not having your phone in bed. Blue light reduction 30 to 45 minutes before bed is really important, but it's so vital for your hormonal health. I can't even express how important it is, and we cannot be running on an empty tank. And when your body doesn't have enough time to truly recover and to have a good night of sleep, you will really struggle to make progress. And so I know I've been talking about stress a lot, but number 7 is reducing your total stress levels, not just your mental stress. I think a lot of times women think about stress and they think of like someone like holding their head, just like being very stressed out in their head. But there's also a such thing as like physical stress too, that is sometimes coming from healthy sources. So something like working out, yes, it's great for your body, but it's also a stress on your body. And so there are things that we can do to eliminate that mental stress of like, okay, let's take a little bit of time off of work or potentially not go on your phone first thing in the morning. Like maybe that's helping with reducing your mental stress. But physically too, like being in a calorie deficit is a stress. Getting a workout in is a stress. Tracking your food could be seen as a stress. Like there's a lot of things that can cause stress. And the main things I see women having really adding a lot of stress onto their body on top of their already mental load of stress of being a mom and working and having all this stuff going on is that they're also like, okay, I am going to be in a crazy calorie deficit under eating. I am going to be working out 7 days per week. Sleep is for the weak. Having very inconsistent routines that causes their mind and their body to be like, what the heck is going on? Having a lot of gut inflammation too. I know that I talked about this in 2 podcasts ago when I talked about my gut health journey as well as like my gut health Q&A, that having underlying gut issues can also impact your hormones and be an extra stress on your body, which is then causing you to look a way that you don't want to look, causing you to feel a way that you don't want to feel, and we don't even necessarily know. And so by eliminating some of these stressors, like doing a protocol to heal your gut, or maybe doing a reverse diet to heal your under eating, or paring back your training a little bit, those will be something that really helps with reducing your stress load without being like, how do I improve my mental stress load? Of course, that's important, but like your hormones don't care that you're stressed. It just knows that you are stressed. It just knows that you're being chased by a bear, for lack of a better term. Like back in the olden days, your body, like, it cannot tell the difference between seeing a stress like a calorie deficit or it thinks that you're in a famine, right? Like your body just sees these things as a threat and sees it as a stress. And so you really have to be proactive with not having all of these stressed out things at once. Like if a client comes to me and she's already stressed in her job, she has 4 kids, she's not sleeping, and then she's like, okay, but I want to do a deficit and I want to work out 6 times per week. I'm going to say, hey girl, like let's pare that back a little bit. We have to focus maybe on some of these stress fundamentals, because if we're trying to add a deficit and more stress on top of your already stressed out state, don't be surprised when you don't see results. Like you are not going to see the results that you want to see when your body is already just completely stressed and spread too thin. And so that reduce the total stress, just not the mental stress, is so important. The next thing is going to be supporting your gut health. And I know I just kind of talked about this, that your gut can be a source of inflammation and stress in your body. And sometimes you don't even know. I would totally recommend, if you're someone that's like, oh, this could be contributing to the reason why I'm not seeing progress, I would totally recommend listening to my last podcast that I did on gut health. But when we're not producing the right bacteria in our gut, when we have maybe more negative bacteria than positive bacteria, a lot of dysbiosis, maybe leaky gut, H. pylori, a lot of these things that do add a lot of stress onto our body's hormones are not able to properly recycle and detox. And so it is vital to really take note of some of these symptoms if you do have them. If you have any sort of bloating, eczema, acne, PMS symptoms, really important to make sure you're focusing on your gut health. And if you're not doing just these basic things that I'll talk about here, of course, you can like go get a GI map and get tested and go down that route. But if you're not doing things like having enough fiber, 20 to 25 grams, that'll also help with blood sugar regulation, by the way. If you're focusing on regular digestive routines, like getting up in the morning, kind of having a regular routine and not just doing extreme protocols, making sure you're eating enough, like those are just kind of the basic things. Of course, like water and movement is important too. But gut health is so vital and important when it comes to your hormonal health. And if you're not properly able to recycle and detox those hormones, no wonder why you're kind of in this perpetually stressed out state. This is something that definitely has/been impacting me. And when I went through my gut health journey, it's amazing how much my hormones improved as well. So excited to do some testing on that. But I am just knowing how important it is to look at that stress and to make sure you're managing that. And so everything that I've kind of mentioned before is kind of basic, fundamental, non-sexy things if you've kind of picked up what I'm putting down. And I think that it has been glamorized so much, all of these crazy supplements and workouts and hacks and whatever to balance your hormones. And just know a lot of that is a bunch of BS. And I am sorry to say that you probably have been scammed at some point over hormones, because they seem like they will just be this like fancy fix. And if you take this supplement, or if you take this peptide, or if you do XYZ, like everything will be fixed with your hormones. And I need you to stop chasing hormone hacks, which is my 9th tip. If you're always jumping on this bandwagon of these trends, of these hormone trends, you're probably not going to see a lot of changes with your health and fitness if you don't focus on the basics. Of course, supplements sometimes can add a little bit of extra credit. Doing a little bit of a detox can sometimes add a little bit of an extra credit. But if you're not sleeping, if you're stressed, if you're under eating, if you're over exercising, if your gut's a mess, you are not going to see immense progress from these little quick fix things. I mean, that's just the trend. It's like, quick fixes is just great. We love a quick fix. However, quick fixes are not going to be permanent results for you. On the topic of supplements, I know that a lot of people take a lot of supplements for hormones, and there are a lot of great supplements for hormones, but you have to have the exact supplements of what's actually going to work for your body. And so what I recommend you do is go get your hormones tested, go get all of your blood work done, actually, for that matter, even maybe do a GI map. That could be helpful too. But you actually want to be taking supplements that are positive for your body. And a lot of women are taking way too many supplements with going off of no data. Like they're just taking supplements because they saw it on TikTok Shop or they saw some influencer promote it. And you know what? You could be taking a supplement that is actually doing more harm than good for your body, and is actually causing your hormones to do something that you don't want it to do. So it's so important to make sure that you are testing before you're taking supplements and buying supplements. I mean, hey, you could be flushing hundreds of dollars down the toilet because you're actually taking a supplement that your body doesn't even need, or a supplement that your body does not need at all and is actually doing negative things and putting yourself into more of a negative spot hormonally than it already was. And so doing the testing, getting that over with, that way you actually know the supplement protocol that works for you. And you know what? If you're not doing all the basics that I mentioned, you don't need to go on any supplements. Like you literally just need to do the basics before you even cross that bridge. For instance, for me, I'm in my post-birth control journey right now. So I am taking specific supplements that are helping to raise my progesterone. I'm taking a multivitamin to replace a lot of the nutrients that I missed. I also did all my blood work. So I'm taking specific supplements based on the minerals and vitamins that I was specifically lacking from being on the pill for years. But a lot of women just like throw themselves into the supplement universe, and they're taking so many supplements that they literally do not need. So I really, really caution you against taking supplements without having data backing up why you're taking those supplements. Okay, number 10, we are going to play the long game. Fixing your hormones is not a quick fix. It's something that's going to cause you to change your lifestyle for the better. It's not going to rebalance in 7 days. You can't do a 30-day challenge and rebalance your hormones. Like this is going to be something that you actively have to work on day after day after day. And so that's why in my program, what I focus on is being 80% consistent. You don't need to be perfect. Like I will tell you, some days I'm not perfect on my hormonal health journey. Last night was the Super Bowl and I had a couple of Aperol spritzes. God forbid, not best for my hormones, but you know what? I am happy about it and I don't need to be perfect 100% of the time. But we want to make sure that we are 80% of the time feeling your body, not putting your body into this perpetually stressed out state. And it's going to take time for your body to really adjust to a lot of these protocols. Your body is not something that just doing something for a couple of days, especially when it comes to doing something naturally, it's not going to completely change in the world. It's not going to be these earth-shattering results. Like it's going to look slow, but it's going to look like improvements in your energy levels slowly. Then maybe your cycles start to improve. Maybe you have less food noise. Maybe you start to lose some body fat, lose some inflammation. But it's going to be a slow and steady process that long-term will be very, very helpful, especially if you're someone that is maybe heading into menopause or in perimenopause, or maybe you are already through menopause. I know that can feel very just not very a positive journey for a lot of women because they're like, well, my hormones are just broken. But they also haven't focused on a lot of these foundational habits leading up to those events. So it's like, of course, their, metabolism starts to get affected because they've been under eating for years and their body's in this stressed out state. So you can really lessen a lot of these symptoms by doing a lot of these things that I was saying, whether wherever you're at in your hormonal journey, whether you are just getting your cycle or whether you're getting off of birth control or postpartum, like all of these different things that your body goes through, it's going to be way more supported if you do these things, and you're probably going to experience less symptoms than someone that is not taking care of their hormones properly. And you're not broken, you're probably just not doing these habits. And if you are doing these habits and you're still experiencing hormonal dysregulation, that's what I would say, like, get some extra testing done, get some blood work done, get a Dutch test done. I do all that stuff. So if you need help with that, let me know for specific protocols, because it could be something that you do need to look under the hood and really get adjusted there. But that is the whole episode on how to balance your hormones. And I hope you all had a great time listening and took something out of this episode and can apply it to your life. I'd say start slow. Maybe just start incorporating like one of these things per week. I think that's a really great place to start. But I guarantee if you follow this subject and follow all of the things that I said today, I think you're going to be feeling really good. But that's all I have for today's episode. Please make sure to like, subscribe, comment, rate, review, whatever platform you are on. And I will talk to you all next week. Bye.